Welcome back. It's Sunday. It's 9:30, but I've been up since 6 a.m. So let's continue reading. The sun is shining, so the temperature will get up and up and up. Now it's 24. I've been this vegan this morning. So it's Sunday. I need to pay my bills tomorrow, Monday, Sunday. I have to pay rent my apartment, payments to my debt, electricity bill. Then Wednesday I have like $100, $90 payment and more payment, another credit. But I've been on my online banking, I have money enough. So I will take a little bit more tips and then I will reading my whole day. So I buy a bit bread and I have sausages for tomorrow, Monday. Big sausages with brown gravy and potatoes. So I have little chips. Okay, we can take everything. So I just like to read the whole day through the sun. The sun go down like 7 or 8 p.m. So now the sun is shining. In 1 hour sun will start shining into my windows. And then the temperature will get up to like 30 degrees. I will make a little noise when I'm eating this.
T-90. T-90 redirects here. For other uses, see T-90, disambiguation. The T-90 is a third-generation Russian main battle tank developed from, and designed to replace the T-72. It uses a 125mm .246 smoothbore main gun, the 145T fire control system, an upgraded engine, and gunner's thermal sight. Standard protective measures include a blend of steel and composite armor, smoke grenade dischargers, Contact 5 explosive reactive armor, ERA, and the Stra infrared anti-tank guided missile, ATGM, jamming system. The T-90 was designed and built by Uralvagonzavod in Nizhny Tagil, Russia. It entered service with the Russian Army in 1992. Development. The T-90 has its origins in a Soviet-era program aimed at developing a replacement for the T-64, T-72 and T-80 series of main battle tanks, MBT. The T-72 platform was selected as the basis for the new generation of tank owing to its cost-effectiveness, simplicity and automotive qualities. The Kartsev Venediktov Design Bureau from Nizhny Tagil was responsible for the design work and prepared two parallel proposals. The Object 188, which was a relatively simple upgrade of the existing T-72B tank, Object 184, and the far more advanced Object 187, only vaguely related to the T-72 series and incorporating major improvements to the hull and turret design, armor, power plant and armament. Development work was approved in 1986 and the first prototypes were completed by 1988. The vehicles resulting from the Object 187 program have not been declassified to this date. The Object 188 was engineered by a team under V.N. Venediktov. The biggest change was the integration of the 145 fire control system of the T-80U. The Object 188 was initially designated as the T-72BM. The first four of these were delivered for trials in January 1989. An improved variant, called the T-72BU, was delivered beginning in June 1990. In March 1991, the Soviet Ministry of Defense recommended that the Army adopt the Object 188. Work on the Object 187 was simultaneously stopped for unknown reasons. Production and service history. Russian tank production dwindled in the years before and after the breakup of the Soviet Union. The Kharkov tank plant belonged to the newly independent Ukraine. The Chelyabinsk tractor plant ended production in 1989, and Kirov in Leningrad in 1990. In the two remaining tank plants at Omsk and Nizhny Tagil, state orders all but ceased in 1992. Around the same time, the Russian Ministry of Defense decided it would commit to eventually producing just one tank type. During the 1980s, the Soviet military had ordered T-64S, T-72S and T-80S, then in simultaneous production from rival tank design firms. Though all three tanks had similar characteristics, they each required different components, which contributed to the Army's logistical burden. Though both Nizhny Tagil's T-90 and Omsk's T-80U had their merits, the T-80S gas turbine engine was notorious for its high fuel consumption and poor reliability. Additionally, Russian T-80S suffered heavy losses in their first combat use during the First Chechen War. T-90S, which were not deployed to Chechnya, were spared media criticism in spite of the similarly poor performance of the T-72 in the same conflict. In January 1996, Colonel General Alexander Gorkin, chief of the main armor directorate of the Russian Ministry of Defense, said the Russian armed forces would phase out T-80 production in favor of the T-90. Gorkin reversed his position later that year, claiming the T-80U was a superior tank. Production of the T-80 at Omsk persisted until 2001, mainly for the export market. The principal upgrade in the T-90 is the incorporation of a slightly modified form of the T-80U's more sophisticated 145T Irtish fire control system and an upgraded V84MS multi-fuel engine developing 840 HP, 618 kilowatts. The T-90 was manufactured at the Eurovagonzavod factory in Nizhny Tagil, with low-level production being carried out since 1992 and virtually ceasing towards the end of the 1990s for the native market. Around 120 T-90 tanks were delivered to the Russian ground forces before production of an upgraded version was resumed in 2004. By September 1995, some 107 T-90 tanks had been produced, located in the Siberian military district. Later, another U.S. report said that with only 150 built by mid-1998, The Siberian Military District's 21st Motor Rifle Division received some of these MBTs and formed a tank regiment. T-90s were also issued to the 5th Don Guards Tank Division in Buryatia. However, the 21st MRD had already been reduced to the status of a motor rifle brigade by this time, and then was reduced to a storage base in 1997. Facing tapering domestic orders, Uralvagonzavod received government approval to export the T-90 in the mid-1990s. The designers at Uralvagonzavod created a new, welded turret that offered improvements in protection and internal space in the same period. In 1997, India signaled interest in the T-90 in response to Pakistan's acquisition of 320 Ukrainian T-80U tanks. India's heavy vehicles factory in Avadi was already licensed manufacturing the T-72 under the name Ajya. The first 42 complete Indian tanks were delivered in 2001 and were designated T-90s, Object 188s. Still equipped with the older cast turrets of the early series. This exhausted the remaining stocks of cast turrets warehoused at Nizhny Tagil, and powered by the V-84 engine making 840 HP, 618 kilowatts. In 2002, 82 vehicles were delivered, now equipped with the new welded turrets and the V-92S2 engine, generating 1000 HP. 735 kilowatts. The initial contract stipulated the following batch of 186 tanks, now officially called Bhishma, to be completed in India from Russian-supplied kits, and then gradually replaced with domestically manufactured parts. Delays in domestic production compelled the Indian authorities to place an additional order for 127 complete vehicles from Uralvagonzavod. In 2005, the Russian army resumed delivery of the T-90, requesting the original specification for the vehicle with a cast turret. But with the new order numbering 14 tanks, and the large capital investment required to set up production of new cast turrets, the Russian Ministry of Defense agreed on a new configuration very close to the Indian T-90s, which was expeditiously accepted into service without any trials as the Object 188A1 or T-90A. 2005 saw delivery of 18 new tanks, enough to equip approximately 5 tank platoons. These new Russian tanks were powered by the V-92S2 engine, carried a T-01K05 Buran M gunner's sight, passive-active night vision channel with an EPM-59G Mirage K matrix and a maximum observation distance of 1,800 m, and were protected by the most recent Contact 5 reactive armor with 4 S-22 explosive tiles. The years 2006-2007 saw the delivery of 31 T-90 tanks each, now fitted with entirely passive ESA main gunner's sights supplied by Peeling in Belarus and using the second-generation thermal camera Catherine FC from Thales, and improved 4 S-23 era tiles. The joint venture established on the basis of JSC Volsky Optical and Mechanical Plant, VIMS, and Thales Optronics, produced Catherine FC thermal imaging devices, which were further used to develop ESA, Plisa and Sosna-U sighting systems produced for the Russian armored vehicles, including T-72B3 tanks and export versions of T-90s, exported to India, Algeria and Azerbaijan. Since 2012, Russia was able to produce third-generation Catherine XP cameras based on Quip Matrix technology. In 2012, the Russian-made Commander Combined Sample Supervisor Sighting System T-01K04DT/AGAT-MDT was presented to the public at the International Forum Engineering Technologies 2012. According to Krasnogorsky Zavod plant, AGAT-MDT has the ability to install, for further modernization, in the sight the newly developed domestic UPF format 64512 by 15 microns, which makes possible in the future to extend the range of target identification at night to 3.54.0 km without modifications to the sight. In 2016, the Krasnogorsk plant finished testing the Irbiskay night vision sighting system for the T-80U and T-90, with first deliveries planned for 2017. Completion of the Irbiskay, the first Russian-produced mercury-cadmium telluride (MCT) matrix thermal sight, addressed a disadvantage of Russian tanks relative to their Western counterparts. The Irbiskay can identify targets at ranges up to 3,240 meters during day and night. In 2007, there were about 334 T-90 tanks of various types serving in the Russian Ground Forces 5th Guards Tank Division, stationed in the Siberian Military District, and 7 T-90 tanks assigned to the Marines. Since 2008, the Russian Army has received 62 tanks annually, suspending orders in 2011. After the cancellation of the T-95 in 2010, Eurovagonzavod began the OKR Armata armament design study. The study resulted in the Object 148 based on the T-95, itself based on the Object 187. The Russian Army curtailed T-90 orders beginning in 2012 to prepare for the arrival of the new tank. In July 2021, Industry and Trade Minister Denis Manturov said the tank, designated the T-14 Armata, will enter serial production in 2022. Deliveries of upgraded T-90M tanks started in April 2020 to the Guards Tank Army of the RF Western Military District. The T-90M Proryev breakthrough has received a principally new turret, the Tu-46 M5 gun, and a more powerful engine. The Proryev is outfitted with a new multi-channel sighting system that allows employing weapons at any time of day or night, and it can exchange data with other vehicles in real time. A new batch was delivered in March 2021. According to Ukrainian intelligence sources, manufacturing of T-90s was slowed because of the effect of international sanctions since the start of the invasion of Ukraine. An article from Forbes magazine in early October 2023 suggested a rise in T-90MS production based on the increasing amount of T-90 losses in Ukraine. The UK-based International Institute for Strategic Studies, IISS, estimates that annual production of T-90M tanks could reach up to 90 units in 2024. Analysis suggests, however, that the majority of these T-90MS are likely upgrades of older T-90 models rather than newly built tanks. Combat use. Russian service. An early variant of the export-oriented T-90s allegedly saw combat action during the 1999 Chechen invasion of Dagestan instead of being delivered to India. The tank's survivability against rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs, is disputed. Gordon L. Rotman writes that T-90s were frequently knocked out by 3 or 4 hits from a RPG-7. He adds that Chechens found a way to compromise T-90s fitted with explosive reactive armor. They would fire an RPG-7 from close range, within 50 m, to trigger the explosive reactive armor protection, and then re-attack the exposed tank armor underneath with 2 or more RPG hits, again from close range. On the other hand, Moscow Defense Brief gives the example of one T-90 that remained in action despite being hit by 7 RPGs. The journal concluded that with regular equipment, the upgraded T-90 seems to be the best protected Russian tank, especially with the implementation of Shtra-1 and Arena defensive systems. The T-90 was deployed to Syria in 2015 to support the Russian involvement in the Syrian civil war. In September 2020, a Russian T-90 was accidentally hit by an anti-tank guided missile, ATGM, during exercises held in Russia's Astrakhan region, causing serious damage to the vehicle. Russo-Ukrainian War and full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. During the war in Donbas stage of the Russo-Ukrainian War in the summer of 2014, elements of the Russian 136th Guards Motor Rifle Brigade equipped with T-90 tanks conducting operations in Luhansk Oblast of Ukraine were identified in social media posts, and locations of their photographs were geolocated by open-source investigators. During the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine beginning in February 2022, by the 12th of May, a T-90 was reported to have been destroyed by a Swedish Carl Gustaf Mann portable anti-tank grenade launcher in Kharkiv. During this conflict, the T-90 has faced many types of anti-tank missiles, including modern top attack missiles such as the American-produced FGM-148 Javelin and the Anglo-Swedish MLAW. These type of missiles are known to be capable of defeating these tanks. Russia has developed ARENA, an active protection system developed for the purpose of protecting tanks from anti-tank weapons, anti-tank guided missiles, and missiles with top attack warheads. In January 2024, in fighting around Stepov, 2 Bradley fighting vehicles, BFV, from the Ukrainian 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade engaged a T-90M. The tank was disabled by the Bradleys, and its crew escaped before a FPV drone destroyed the tank. As of the 18th of June, 2024, Oryx blog had documented that Russia had lost at least 151 T-90s since the start of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, visually confirmed, including 40 T-90, of which 27 were destroyed, 3 abandoned, 10 captured, 1 T-90AK, captured, 10 T-90s, 9 destroyed, 1 abandoned, and 100 T-90M, 53 destroyed, 14 damaged, 28 abandoned, 5 captured. Syrian service. In early February 2016, Syrian army forces began using T-90s in combat. A video was leaked on the internet which showed a T-90 survive a direct frontal turret hit by a TOW missile in Aleppo. The Contact 5 reactive armor discharged the TOW warhead before impact. 2 Syrian army-operated T-90 were captured by HTS militias while ISIS fighters captured a third in November 2017. A rebel-operated T-90 was recaptured by Syrian government forces while the second was reportedly destroyed in combat by a T-72. Another 5 Syrian army-operated T-90 tanks were knocked out or heavily damaged and other 4 suffered hits according to recorded material. Azerbaijani service. Azerbaijan used their T-90s tanks during the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. 1 T-90 was damaged and captured by Armenian forces. At least 2 were confirmed destroyed in the initial phases of the war, being the first ever proven total loss of the combat vehicle. Export. India. This section needs additional citations for verification. Please help improve this article by adding citations to reliable sources in this section. Unsourced material may be challenged and removed. December 2016. Learn how and when to remove this message. The T-90s Bhishma, named after the Guardian warrior in the Mahabharata, is a vehicle tailored for Indian service, improving upon the T-90s, and developed with assistance from Russia and France. The tanks are equipped with the French Thales-built Catherine FC thermal sights. They use Russian Contact 5 explosive reactive armor, in addition to the primary armor, which consists of laminated plates and ceramic layers with high tensile properties. The new welded turrets first developed for the Indian T-90S Bhishma have more advanced armor protection than the early cast turrets. In 2001, India purchased 310 T-90S tanks from Russia, of which 124 were delivered complete, 42 featured the early cast turrets seen on Russian tanks, and 186 were to be assembled from kits delivered in various stages of completion with an emphasis on shifting production to domestic means. The T-90 was selected because it is a direct development of the T-72 that India already manufactured, simplifying training and maintenance. India opted to acquire the T-90 to counter Pakistani deployment of the Ukrainian-made T-80 tank in 1995-97. These T-90S tanks were made by Uralvagon Zavod and the engines were delivered by Chelyabinsk tractor plant. The Indian tanks however omit the Shtra-1 passive electronic countermeasure system which was deemed obsolete. A follow-on contract, worth $800 million, was signed in October 2006, for another 330 T-90S Bhishma MBTs that were to be manufactured in India by Heavy Vehicles Factory at Avadi, Tamil Nadu. The T-90M features the Cactus K6 bolted explosive reactive armor, ERA, package on its frontal hull and turret top. The T-90S has Contact 5 ERA, is fitted with an enhanced environmental control system supplied by Israel's Kinetics Limited for providing cooled air to the fighting compartment, has additional internal volume for housing the cryogenic cooling systems for new generation thermal imagers like the Fails-built Catherine FC thermal imager, operating in the 812 micrometer bandwidth. In all, India plans to have 2,080 T-90 tanks in service by 2020. A third contract, worth $1.23 billion, was signed in December 2007 for 347 upgraded T-90MS, most to be license assembled by HVF. The Army hoped to field a force of over 21 regiments of T-90 tanks and 40 regiments of modified T-72s. The Indian Army began receiving its first T-90M main battle tank in completely knocked-down form from Russia's Nizhny Tagil-based Uralvagon Zavod JSC at the end of 2009. The first batch of 10 T-90MS built under license was inducted into the Indian Army in August 2009. These vehicles were built at the Heavy Vehicles Factory at Avadi, Tamil Nadu. A 10,000 crore, $1.2 billion, purchase of 354 new T-90SM tanks for 6 tank regiments for the China border was being planned in 2012, making India, with a total of nearly 4,500 tanks, T-90 and variants, T-72 and Arjun MBT, in active service, the world's third largest operator of tanks. India planned to have 21 T-90 tank regiments by 2020, with 45 combat tanks and 17 training and replacement tanks per regiment. In November 2019, India announced that Heavy Vehicles Factory would produce 464 T-90 MBTs for 10 tank regiments. In 2021, the Indian Army was looking to upgrade its T-90 tank fleet with locally built modular active protection, with both soft kill and hard kill systems, to update the tanks to modern standards. On the 25th of February 2022, the acquisition wing of the Defence Ministry has signed a contract valued at Rs.1,075 crore with Bharat Electronics Limited, BEL, to retro-modify 957 T-90S with Advanced Mid-Wave Thermal Image, MWI, which will replace the existing image converter, IC, based site. On the 13th of May, 2024, Heavy Vehicles Factory delivered the first batch of 10 units of Pishma Mk3, which is a more advanced variant of T-90, as a part of the 464 tank deal signed in 2019. The rest of 454 tanks will be delivered within 5 years.